Seed starting today. That should be next video. We're gonna do some seed starting, but we're gonna we're finally doing our project, or starting it, where we're removing our wild garden. And I'll get into a little bit of a history about that here in a minute, just so everybody knows. But this is really how we can design the perfect garden, and this is highly subjective. So it's whatever works for you, but this is how my perfect garden would look. Just to say what we're doing real quick is we have our beds here that are already built. We have a garden over here that has failed. Long backstory to it. You can go back and find it in some of the videos if you want, and even in the Backyard Gardens podcast you can find where I've talked about it at length. Long story short, we're moving this bed and consolidating into this one area because we can. So because of the lack of sunlight over there, the poor soil structure and all that, we should be able to actually, with the same amount of physical growing space, ramp our production up. And I'm going ahead and I'm going big because of the way that garden acted last year, and say it's going to be almost 100% improvement as far as the amount that we can get out of our garden, because that area just hasn't done well. Probably tell it's a nice day, and we're trying to push these plants. So another thing I'm going to be doing is, while we're doing all of this, we're going to inject some fertilizer in here. We've got about a solid week of decent non-freezing weather, so we're going to try and push some nitrogen in and get everything so that it can produce a little bit more, and hopefully go ahead and start harvesting. We're really close on our broccoli over here as well, so I'm thinking another good dose of fertilizer and we can go ahead and get these heads of broccoli and add to the championship belt, you know what I'm saying? Welcome back to Sandy Bottom Homestead. My name is Ben, and I am in coastal North Carolina, and I am aware and I am thankful that we picked up quite a few subscribers recently. So I want to go ahead and just get this out of the way. I don't talk about zones. They are perennial growing zones, and we are not growing perennial plants. We are growing vegetables. They can be perennial, but we don't grow them as perennial, so we don't focus on zones. So don't ask, doesn't matter. The other thing is, this is my homestead, welcome, and we grow food, we raise chickens, and we have bees for honey, and this is all that we do. Now, I grow food for two reasons. One, I want my family to have a good diet. Two, I want to be able to have food in case we can't get food, so that's why we do it. So thank everybody for being here, and welcome to the club. And we're going to take you over here to what was coined originally as the wild garden. Got Mini-Me out here getting the beds ready, and we're pulling the irrigation out, and then we're simply going to lift these beds out and move them over here. Now, we noticed early in the spring they weren't doing very well, and we knew we were going to move them, so we just kind of let them do their thing, whatever. So we're going to get these out, and we're not taking the soil, we're just going to start over fresh. When in doubt, rip it all out. So here's a couple things outside of the fact that what occurred was we had a little bit of shade issues. Our sun tracks, I know y'all are dizzy right now, but it's all good, this way. And then right here is where we get the bulk of the sun, and then boom, we lose sun here, and then it goes like this. So we weren't getting the sun we wanted. We noticed it because our tomatoes were getting leggy and we were just having problems. The only time we could really grow successfully is in the spring, where we were getting the most sun, but then it quickly dropped off. And the other thing we didn't like was the spacing in between here. So you can see my foot is right at 12 inches long, and that's not very much room. And when you go up towards there, it's like 7-8 inches. So there's not a lot of room to move around. So we just wanted to kind of do this as use this for something else. All kinds of ways to design a garden, and you can get super duper creative. The way I do it is simple and concise. That's what I want. I want everything to be together. The reason why we used that over there is because we had a bad hurricane and it just kind of got cleared and we didn't know what to do with it. So we said, hey, let's try it. It was going to be an in-ground garden. Didn't do well. It did okay as an in-ground garden, but the weeds were like super crazy high. And then we came back. So it's been a couple years, and we added those raised beds in there, and we don't want to waste them. So we want to have the same amount of growing space, but we're just going to add it right back behind us here and just kind of go in line with what we've got going on here. We've got a pretty good idea of how the sun hits, and we do know the farther out that it comes, the more sun it'll get. So we're going to use that to our advantage. So let's get these things moved, and then we'll talk more about how I design my space. You know, it's funny, I put this off for a while because I didn't feel like doing it, and it's actually not taking that long. It's the part after this that sucks, but we've got 2 of them moved, and if you ever want to do this, I'll show you how I'm removing these. These have been in the ground for 3 years now. I think we're coming up on the 3rd year. So we want, you know, they're in the ground, but we just built simple boxes, and I'll show you over there because they're empty now how we did it. And but removing them off there because they get kind of sucked in can be a little tricky. We've got this big metal pole, which, I mean, you could use anything. You could use a piece of wood. It's not proving to be that difficult, but we just use leverage. And this one's actually going to be a little bit tricky. Actually, we'll come to the other side. And then you take it, try and do this with one hand. So we get it under the edge, and then we just use it to pry it up easily and slowly. And then it comes up. So basically what we're left with is an edge of a bed, a perfect edge of a bed. And this will be good dirt for our next project, which we'll get into the tentative ideas of what we're doing. So here's the general layout now. So I've done a couple things. So one, I want to talk about spacing, I want to talk about irrigation and all that good stuff, and obviously sunlight. So this is what we've got going on. These 2 beds here in the front, they are going to primarily be sweet potato beds. Reason why is because the sweet potatoes can climb out and do whatever they want to do. Otherwise, it's kind of free game. And I do like to rotate my crops. So this year I will definitely do both of these beds sweet potatoes. And I don't know what I'll do the next year. I may end up moving them back a bed and just kind of going in between these 2. I'm not really sure. Everything moved good except for this one. So I tried something new when I built these, and this piece rotted out. So we're going to just take these out and screw directly in. I mean, it's real simple. So each one of these, I think these are 2x8s. These are 2x10s. So it's 3 8-foot boards, 8x4. So you cut one board in half, no waste whatsoever. And that's why we do these sizes. These we use 6-foot boards, they're 3x6. So again, no waste. If I had to do it again, clearly I would do 4x8 here, but it is what we've got, and I'm not going to waste any money. I said in the other area, the one big issue I had with it was the spacing in between beds. So generally speaking, I do 2-foot spacing in between. It means I can get a wheelbarrow in, a lawnmower can go in and out, even though my lawnmower broke and I didn't even lawn mow. I didn't even cut in between, but I had that Seminole pumpkin that was going crazy, so it wasn't really that big a deal. But typically speaking, that's what we do. And the reason why I say typically is because the beds we just put in, I'm going bigger than that. You can see this is, I don't even know how big it is. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a 4-foot spacing in between. And the reason why we're doing that is because I'm gonna have to level these out, meaning, you know, up and down, side to side, because there's a bit of a hill right here. So by putting them forward a little bit, I was able, it looks like at least on one, I will be able to eliminate the board. I got to put a level on it and see, but I should be able not have to do too much to level that one. And I'll just have to level, get a board to go here and here for these 3 sides and just level it with that end board. And then this one the same. That one looks like it's pretty good. I have plenty of room to get in here, put something in, and because it's growing the way it is to where we went from 3 beds on one side to now 5, we'll be able to station things in, get in here and work. So it should work out pretty good. Otherwise, I would do no less than 2-foot spacing, but this should save me some time. Now I do have a video about leveling out the garden bed the way I'm talking about, and I'll link that at the end. So at the end, when the music plays, you'll see that you can click on it. I'm not gonna redo that video. Otherwise, this should be set in place. The other thing I did though is I went ahead, since I moved these, I flipped them over. So this is what was originally in contact with the ground. Now I am using pressure treated wood, and save your breath. Pressure treated wood does not have arsenic in it anymore. It hasn't since like the 90s. So I'm not worried about it. And the chemicals that would come from the wood is far less than what would come out of something from a factory farm. So if you're trying to convince me any other way, hold your breath. I'm not going to do it. But I flipped them over because it'll just allow that top rail, or what was the bottom rail, to dry out, and it'll just last a little bit longer. So we're going to let these sit. We're not going to fill them up for a couple weeks. I want them to kind of dry out a little bit. We're not going to get a lot of rain, and just let them kind of recover. If there's a rotting process, it won't stop it, but it'll definitely slow it down. And then we can evaluate what's going on. If for some reason I do have rotting because I was able to move these, then I will get some plastic of some sort and line the edge of it, and that will stop the rotting on the inside of the board, which is where I'm mostly concerned. Being that we have the top on, these, what was up top, these should last us many more years. And when it's time to replace them, it's literally like when you're done, it's exactly like this. So you see that there's a hard edge, you just unscrew it, slide it off, put a new one on. So another thing is irrigation. I have a very unique irrigation situation here where we run our water from the house all the way back here via hoses, which is not ideal, but it is definitely cost effective, if you know what I'm saying. The problem is we lose water pressure. So we have an in-ground irrigation system that comes in, and it comes in from this side of our house. Now we already had one in place here, so all the line is run from here to here. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna cut it over this way. And so typically what happened was we ran irrigation on one side, and then another day we would do the other one. And we're gonna continue to do that. So we're basically, when it comes to watering, these 4 beds will be treated differently than these 4 beds, meaning they will be off by a day. And that's just so we don't have any overlap or any stupid issues like that. The problem when you come to really setting up a garden bed, and especially if you're using sprinklers, which a lot of people do, is we had an issue here when we added this garden bed in here. And the problem became when we were running sprinklers, we could cover, and this is when we had 4 beds here instead of 6, we could cover this area good, but this one became a bit of a headache, and we were not getting water where we wanted, which is why we went to the in-ground irrigation, the drip lines, because we could run it any way we wanted. And so that worked out really good. But if I had to start over, and at this point I'm not really looking to move any of these beds or anything, but if I had to start over, I would plan my irrigation first, which unfortunately, if you're not doing sprinklers, you gotta have some money and really think it out. And this garden has been built little by little over time. So when we started at this house, we started, because I didn't know how much I wanted to do, we started with 1 bed, 1 year. And then the next year we put in the next 3 beds right in this area. And then we added in that bed. And then we added in the wild garden, which now you see how that worked out. And then we added in the greenhouse. Then we added in, I know this is getting a little crazy, we added in these cattle panels. And then we added in these last year. So you can see where we're at. And this is where we want. Now I came on here last year and I said, if you ever see me building garden beds out this way in my yard, that means that there's the end of the world's coming or something's happening, and I don't think there's going to be a situation where food's going to be very easy to get. That is not the case. I want to be very clear. That case is not occurring. What is going on is we're just saving our materials, and basically restructuring is all we're doing. So I do not foresee any of that coming. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know. But that is not why this project is occurring. This is simply so we can get our production to where we want. And my personal goal is to hit 80 to 85% of our vegetable intake from our property. And we are really just about there. This is just the icing on the cake, which will make it easier for us to hit that goal. As far as this space in between goes, I gotta tell you, I am liking this nice wide open space, kind of inviting you in. So we are really looking forward to this, just being able to walk in and go straight through, especially after we get this plastic out of the way, but this is the life we live right now. Final thing is the sunlight. So the sunlight's a really big deal. You gotta make sure you're getting enough sunlight. Our yard is very particular. I mean, if you see, we are surrounded by woods, so we really don't have much of an option, but I can tell you, from what I've seen over there to what I've seen grow over here, this is why we are talking about such an increase in production coming out of this, because we are able to capture the bulk of the sunlight coming in. Not to mention your boy's gonna have to mow less grass, which makes me feel real good. Now, I don't know how much of this I'll do on camera, but just to kind of cover my bases so you guys understand, I am not doing hugelkultur method or anything like that here. I'm simply going to put a 50-50 mix of 50% compost, 50% topsoil in here, let it settle, and then come back and put 100% topsoil up top. I, in my homestead and in my garden, do not do anything that has a method after the name of it. I just grow food. I don't concern myself with any of that. I don't put logs and sticks in, anything like that. I just, like I said, simple. I keep it simple, stupid. That's what I tell myself all the time. And every time I try to go away from that, I have issues. So we're just gonna go through. We may put some cardboard down, we may not. I may put a couple leaves in there since I've got to do some raking anyways. But truth be told, I'm just gonna put soil down and I'm gonna grow it. And if you put, there's gonna be 8 inches of soil on top, that grass is not gonna grow through it. The weeds are not gonna grow through it, none of that. One issue we had over here in what was the wild garden, which is officially dead, thank you. I'm so glad this is over with. At least it's emptied. Is the roots, because that's a woodland soil, was terrible. We won't have that issue here. So this is really going to work out a lot better and we won't have to fight it. This area, tentatively speaking, what we're going to do is we're talking about putting a pond in right here, and then we're going to do mostly flowers that benefit our bees. So we're expanding our bee yard next year. We're going to have to do some splits, and we'll end up with out of those 4 hives, we'll probably end up with an additional 2 to 4 hives, and then we're going to add another 2 to 4 hives out here. Anything that we plant is in mind to benefit them during the nectar dearth, so that would be summer into fall. So we're going to be doing buckwheats, we're going to be doing goldenrod is a really big one that we're trying to do. That's what these are here. These are all goldenrod that have gone to seed, so we're letting the seeds fall where they want. And I'm going to go around and cut them all and then lay them in piles and just let them reseed once we get that soil spread out. And we're going to take this covering that we have down here and we're going to remove it off of it. This has been down for a couple of months now, so anything underneath it should be dead once we get this soil spread out. And then we're going to spread that out and let that just kind of cook for a couple months as well. And this is a perfect time to do it. We're not really doing anything, we're not really growing anything, we're not trying to grow anything now, we're not trying to pre-seed, nothing like that. Everything that we plan to grow can be started in there in April. So it's almost January. We have 4 months to get everything ready. We got plenty of time, but we need those tarps to sit on there for a while. Those are silage tarps. They need to sit on there to cook that soil, to kill that weed seed. Once we stir it all up, we're gonna get all of those weeds up to the surface, and we'll start, this warm weather that we'll start to get, we'll start to have them grow, and then we're gonna smother the crap out of them. We're gonna show them who's boss, right? So we'll see how it goes, but that's our tentative plan over there. We'll see how far we get into it. If it was my way, we would definitely do it, but I don't know how it's going to work out. It's a lot of work, and we're going to do it all with a shovel. So 3-foot hole, 4-foot hole spread out, it's going to be rough, but you know, you do what you do. And I mean, to make it a bee haven, to make it a wildlife haven, that's what we've got to do. So hopefully it'll work in our favor. Now, your perfect garden may be set up a different way, and you are welcome to set it up any way you want. Like I said in the beginning, it is highly subjective. But to me, This is the perfect garden setup. I can rotate my crops. I can keep track of them. I can water them, all that stuff right in one spot. I had a really difficult time managing this and this over there. Not this, but that over there. And the reason why it was so much easier this year is because I just kind of let it go and was like, whatever, I don't care. So we're looking forward to this year. 2025 looks like, I mean, look at how much we've added. Isn't this crazy? So I'm loving this. The garden's getting a lot bigger. It's going to be a lot more productive, and we're moving in the right direction. I'm going to start on my repairs, but I'm curious, what are you guys doing in your garden? Because this is, in my mind, construction and rebuilding time for gardens. So I'm curious what you're undertaking between now and spring. Let us know in the comments below.